Well, yeah, and see, you're also talking about social influence.
Yeah.
And one word we is conformity,
Mm-hmm.
or as Robert Cialdini calls it, social proof.
Mm-hmm.
I want to fit in with the group, so I will do what they are doing so I can fit. And sometimes what they're doing is not necessarily positive, not
Mm.
necessarily beneficial to human welfare. But
Yeah.
I've joined this group. We've known this for years. What your group that you're in certainly influences your behavior and eventually your values.
Right.
It's complex. But again, let's get back to what is your culture promoting? What is the overall viewpoint that parents are teaching their kids, that teachers are teaching their students? What are some of the lessons? I call them life lessons. What are the life lessons that we should be teaching others and spreading around? And one of those life lessons is the three C's for one: community, choice, um, but also the sense of gratitude. By the way, there's interpersonal gratitude, that is showing somebody else that you're grateful,
Yeah.
but there's also intrapersonal gratitude,
Mm.
talking to yourself about what you are grateful for. And that, of course, relates to positivity or human welfare. But I think my point is we it's not easy to decide, what do I do? What group do I join? Who do I trust? As we said earlier, who do I trust? And
Yeah.
the group you join might have a great impact on your future behavior, and that could be good or not so good, even tragic.
Yeah, because if you look the group or the percentage of people I described when I mentioned the breaking away and the working, it's a relatively small percentage, but now there's a huge middle class that is empowered, and they're setting free from the shackles, if you want to call it. And as a result, you have a lot more people who do have money, but of course we still have a huge population, the big disparity in population are in who are who don't have good education. There's a lot of discrimination, there's a lot of poverty. um, but this this word which you mentioned is kind of coming up to me right now, because competence, I feel, is um, is so important, but I feel it's also very loosely held, because people have a sense of importance that is, I think, more than what it what the reality is. And as a result, that creates this false value system for the ego, and they're like, oh, I'm better than the person next to me, I make more than my neighbor. And I'm sensing this. Of course, I'm not a sociologist or an expert in any way, but I'm sensing this energy right now with people, where there's a lot of what you're describing. And I think it's important to talk about it, because it seems like we're in the footsteps of what America did, or what American culture went through. And maybe, by you showing light and talking about it, maybe we all of us don't have to uh, go down that path.
Well, yeah, it's decisions. For
Mm,
example, as you said, importance being what is importance? What defines a person with regard to their importance? For some, it's how much money you make.
hmm
For others, for me, by the way, it's teaching and learning.
mm,
I think it's important to have a perspective of always learning and teaching what you know. But of course, that's biased by my profession. So it would be interesting to do a survey among people. What do they believe is important?
mm.
Because what you believe is important, that's what you strive, that's what you work for,
Right.
beyond handling your basic needs, food and shelter and sleep and so on.
And status is, that's such an important thing in Indian community, right? How you are seen by others. Of course, in many ways, it's a similar way we celebrity worship, but no one seems to. look at how a person got there. They don't seem to want to acknowledge the hard work. It's only the outcome that people are looking to celebrate and to be envious of. So that is another strange thing, right? Because everyone wants to be uh, hailed as, oh my god, what a successful person, and they jet set on their private yacht and their jet, and they go everywhere. But no one wants to look at the story behind it. And why is that? Because they want to look at the negativity of the person. When they brought down, they're like, I told you so. But why are we so drawn to negativity? Because it feels like negative thoughts can come so easily, but just to have and hold on to one positive thought, it takes us forever. We have to self-reflect. We have to be grateful within, as you said, intrapersonal gratitude. We have to meditate. We have to really, really squeeze out that positive thought. But the negative thought, the floodgates are always open.
Well, yes. And what does the media pay attention to? Negativity.
Yeah, yeah.
Negativity is what gets our attention. In fact, I've written a book on parenting, and parents, guardians, often focus on the negative because it's the
Mm,
negative that stands out.
right,
Instead, we should be focusing on positive. We should be supporting the good stuff rather than quickly jumping on punishing the bad stuff. But
right.
anyway, that's a whole other topic. But the point that you just made is, what is why do we focus on the negative? Because that's what sticks out, and that's what gets our attention.
Right.
And maybe if somebody has a whole lot more than they have and I can see something negative about them, that may make me feel a little bit less envious of what they have.
Mm. But that doesn't keep you. It it makes, like, when someone does badly, or someone fails, or someone has a habit that is more kind of damaging to them than yours. You feel, yeah, you're right. I mean, absolutely. You're like, like, he smokes more cigarettes than me. You feel better for a while, but you don't feel good. You might, that thought might give you a sense of some kind of a, like a satisfaction, if that's not even the right word. I think maybe a sense of, like, I won. But over the course of time, that hurts because you're not looking at yourself, then you're constantly looking at others to see whether they did more. And the moment someone else comes to you after and says, hey, I quit smoking, you feel like, oh my god, I lost, you know
Well, you're talking about social comparison.
yeah,
We compare ourselves with others,
yeah,
and we evaluate our self-esteem. Now, think about this: our self-esteem is essentially what we think others are saying about us.
mm,
What do others say about me? But
yeah,
self-esteem is also determined by me comparing my situation with others.
yeah,
And if we see somebody who's done better than we have done, um, one way to say is, what can I do to get there? How can I achieve what they have achieved?
yeah, yeah,
But the other, yeah, or now we look at the downside. We look at people who have not achieved as much as we have, and that can make us feel better, you know? So we can put ourselves down, say, I haven't gotten as much as they have, but we can feel better by saying, I have more than they have. I mean, this is just, again, we're just talking about social comparison
yeah.
and understanding, evaluating so we use that word again, our importance. How important am I? It's comparing it to other people. But back to what you said earlier, in our country, those those negative people,
Mm,
those those liars. I mean, we've had a recent trial on people, and it's been shown that very strong negativity, but they're getting a lot of attention.
yeah.
It's the negative people get a lot of attention in our culture, and that's sad. We should be paying more attention to the people who are doing well, who are setting the positive example rather than the negative example.
And the I wouldn't say the sad thing, but the reality is that the ones doing real work, putting their head down, are the quiet ones. They- they're not, they're not standing on the top of buildings shouting out, saying, "Hey, look at me, I'm doing positive work." They just, and as a result, it's harder to find them and to recognize them. But I got a sense of this uh, when I wanted to make a shift in the way I looked at myself and how I, in relation to that, looked at the community around me and what I was doing and why I was doing that. I felt there was a need for me to disconnect before reconnecting. How do you? Um, I mean,
Say that
how was
again.
it? I had to
Say
disconnect
just
from the kind of uh, setup I had, the way I was talking to people, the way I was talking to myself, the thought process. I almost to find what meant and what was important to me, and to recognize that and value that. I almost had to take a step back. I had to disconnect from the way I was living to reconnect in a way that was giving me a sense of uh, looking at myself with a different kind of perspective. And that it took a little bit of hard work, because to recognize that I was competent, to recognize my community, to recognize my choices, I had to step away from the way I used to live. And that was important and rewarding, but it's also something that needs support to do. And uh, what would you say about that?
well, I say excellent. That's what therapy is about. That's
Mm,
what counselors do.
mm,
That's really the thing about therapy is having a person step back and evaluate themselves with particular set of values. And good for you that you were able to do that yourself. We all ought to do that once in a while and step back and how am I? How am I doing? It's Stephen Covey wrote this book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. And
mm-hmm.
his main point is, what do you want them to say at your funeral? When you're gone, what are you going to leave behind? What have you done to make the world a better place? He didn't say it that way, but that's how we could think about it. What do you want them to say?
Yeah,
And again, that's stepping back and kind of evaluating. And sometimes we have to make some changes if we really want to turn in the direction of, I use the word positivity,
yeah,
make the world a better place. What does it take to do that?